I'll answer that.
We're recording.
Hi, I'm Nicole, and I'm joined by Karen, who's our moderator. We are both registered dietitians with American Oncology Network. And on behalf of all of the dietitians, we want to welcome y'all to our first virtual teaching kitchen. This is a new series that we're doing where we're going to pair cooking in the kitchen with an online nutrition presentation. We'll be alternating months. So this month we're in the kitchen. We have a fall take on Taco Tuesday. Next month we'll be doing a nutrition webinar, and then we'll be back in the kitchen in January. As we start cooking, I want to encourage you to write down any questions or comments you have in the Q&A box, and we'll address that as we go through. So we're going to go ahead and get started cooking. Karen, feel free to jump in.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. This is going to be fun.
Yes, and thank you to Caitlin as well. I want to make sure we give her a shout out. She's our supervisor, and she has been instrumental, as well as the entire care management department, and getting this virtual teaching kitchen up and going. So thank you. So we're going to go ahead and get started cooking. What I have here is our butternut squash. So that is going to be the butternut squash part of the butternut and chickpea tacos that we're going to be making. So I've already got it in the bowl. It's been washed, peeled, cubed, seeded, and diced. So I do want to draw your attention to the diced part, because the size of those cubes right here, if you take a look at that, that's going to tell us how long it's going to take to cook. So if you're really short on time, cut them a little bit smaller and they'll cook quicker. And the same thing, if you have a little bit more time, you could be a little bit more flexible with those sizes. This size here cooks in about 30 minutes or so. And to that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add our chickpeas. So I want to show you this as well. I have taken the chickpeas, I used a can, I rinsed them and drained them. I put them on a paper towel lined plate, and then I have a paper towel on top, and I just pat them dry. I want the protein. I don't want the extra moisture to give my tacos to make kind of mushy tacos. So what I do is I'm just going to slide it right into our bowl here. And so again, I've got my olive oil in here, 2 tablespoons. And to that, I'm going to add my homemade seasoning mixture. It's got chili powder, cumin, garlic, and a little bit of salt. Now, a word on the salt. Because we did not use garlic salt, you're in control of how much sodium is in here. So if you need to have a little less, or you prefer things to be a little less salty, you can certainly just cut that back and not really worry about losing the flavor there of the garlic or the chili powder or the cumin. But again, we're just going to toss this in, and we're just going to make sure every piece is coated. And again, that oil is going to help. Karen, tell us a little bit about butternut squash while I'm tossing, if you don't mind.
So yeah, butternut squash. Some interesting facts about butternut squash. First of all, it's technically a fruit. It's not a vegetable. In a cup of butternut squash, there are 80 calories. So definitely translates more like, of course, a fruit than a vegetable. It is a powerhouse of nutrition. I tell you, it has the vitamin A, vitamin C, potassium, fiber, magnesium. And to give you an idea, the vitamin A is just off the charts high. It has, for the RDA, it has 457% of the RDA. So kind of to give you an idea, the amount, it has 1,144 micrograms of vitamin A. You're thinking, well, what's that mean? Well, men need 900 and women, the RDA is 700. So you can see it is just a powerhouse of vitamin A. It actually has 50% of the RDA for vitamin C, which is incredible as well. And actually, a cup of it has more potassium than an average banana. So it is a powerhouse, let alone the phytonutrients that it has that have cancer-fighting properties.
And it's also seasonal. And that's one of the other things I like about it is that it's in season this time of year, but it's subtle. It's not going to necessarily repeat one of your favorite Thanksgiving meals. So I've got this already on my tray. Important things to note here is it's in one line. I'm not stacking it because I want it to roast evenly. I've also put it on a lined tray. So the recipe calls for parchment to line it, which you can certainly do. I use aluminum foil because I want as minimal cleanup as I can possibly have. And I find that if I line my edges with this, the little like crispy bits that somehow get in there, it makes it so much easier. So I'm gonna pop this in the oven. My oven is on 400 degrees. I'm gonna let this roast while we talk a little bit about butternut squash. All right, so there's 3 ways that you could get the butternut squash to kind of look like that it was, already washed, peeled, and cut. You could get it frozen. They have bags of them. You'll probably need about 2 bags or so. The ways you could prep it is you could take it from the freezer to the fridge overnight. If you take it straight from the freezer, just make sure you put it in a hot pan. A hot pan will help it to roast and not get as soggy. Another option, when you're in the deli section, you can find butternut squash that's already peeled, seeded, and cut. Now you may have to look at the size of those cuts based on the time you have, but that's certainly an option. The third way is by using a butternut squash, which is what I did. And I want to show you guys the tip that I finally figured out after I cut my fingers a few times. So I washed this squash. I have not peeled it yet. I washed it and I took my knife and I put little scores, like little slits in here. So I hope you guys can see them. I just did them all over, right? All over my squash. And what I do is I put I put it on a paper towel lined plate and I put it in the microwave. Okay, 3 minutes. It goes in the microwave. That 3 minutes makes a huge difference in terms of peeling. It's huge. I want to show you what it looks like when it comes out. So I've already taken this, I cut it in half. So I left the peeling, everything, I just cut it in half and you'll see, here's your seeds. So just take a spoon and you just can scoop the seeds out. You could save them if you want to roast the seeds. If not, all you do is just take a vegetable peeler and just peel it. There's 3 minutes in there, make a huge difference. Very, very easy to work with once you do that. But that's how it's gonna look when it gets out. It's gonna still have the pretty color. It's gonna be firm to where it's gonna roast really, really well. So I'm gonna put these aside and I'm gonna give me just a second while I grab my sauce. So a good homemade sauce can really elevate your dish. Once you get the hang of it, you're going to be doing it all the time. But I will also note it is one of those areas that's going to contribute to the total fat and the sodium and the calories because the original recipe called for mayonnaise. So what we did is we wanted to lighten it up just a little bit, which you could do. Or you can leave it as is, depending on your needs. So everything for this sauce is just going to go straight in the blender. It could be a food processor, it could be a magic bullet, but it's all just going to go straight in there. So in here, I used 1 cup of plain, non-fat Greek yogurt. This is one of my favorite substitutes to make, a mayonnaise for sour cream. Not sour cream, mayonnaise, for Greek yogurt. Keep a container in your fridge and you will be using it all the time for sauces like this because it's very, very versatile. So I've got my plain Greek yogurt. I've put some garlic in there and I want to show you all my little tip. If you don't have time to actually mince all of your garlic, just get the can. It's got a little bit of oil in there. And then generally on each one of these, it'll tell you the ratio of what 1 clove would be. So I think it's half a teaspoon for this one. So I use 2 half teaspoons. So I've got that in there. I'm gonna add to that 1/2 cup of chopped cilantro. So I'm just gonna go ahead and literally put everything in this food processor. Cilantro can be kind of a love it or hate it. I find that this is a good balance. Even for people that don't necessarily love cilantro, it's not too overpowering. I also have some fresh squeezed lime juice. This is my little tip here. I always squeeze it into another container because if you ever get a seed, it is so much easier to pull it out of this than pulling it out of that. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pour it on in. And this is really about as simple as it is here. This is my Chipotle peppers. This is what it looks like in the grocery store. So it's in a can and it'll say Chipotle peppers and adobo sauce. Now this right here is what's gonna bring the heat to this recipe, to this sauce. The recipe calls for 2. And as my dear colleague Karen told me, it's okay to just try it with 1 because 2 was pretty spicy. So this is what it looks like here once it comes out. See it? This sauce here, the red sauce, it's got heat too. So if you're like me and you want to kind of start slow, just do 1 small pepper and take some of the sauce off. If you're a little more adventurous, go with 2. You could do more than 2. But that's what's going to give it some kick. And that's also what's going to give it some color in there as well. So all
And
of
I
that
actually, the first time I tried that recipe, I actually went with a half a one, and I thought it was just fine for our family. And to the point you mentioned with the cilantro, we are not a cilantro family. And I still followed the recipe and I thought it was perfect. It tasted very pleasant. I didn't feel like it was a real full flavor of cilantro.
And so that's as easy as the sauce is. That is literally the sauce right here. All you have to do is you just take it out of your blender or your food processor and you just pour it into the container. Now this sauce will keep in the refrigerator. So I already have some, poured out, but again, that's all there is to it. Is just pouring it straight into the bowl like that. See? And that's your sauce right there. So I'm gonna put this around, and I want to check on my tacos. Check on the squash here. All right, it's looking good. So while I'm doing that, I want to talk you guys through some of the setup for our tacos and the toppings that go with it in the recipe. So one of the toppings is actually a pomegranate, which is a really neat surprise in this taco. I want to show you what an actual pomegranate looks like. So this is a pomegranate that's just out of the grocery store, and what we put on the taco it's called the arils. So it looks like little seeds. I'm going to show you just a second. I hope you can see this. Karen, can you see this?
Yeah, sure can.
Perfect. So these little red seeds here, they are inside of this pomegranate. So what you do, and I have to give Karen credit here because she definitely thought of this. Cut the pomegranate. I cut it into 4 pieces, and then I just kind of peeled it back, almost like you peel an orange. And if you put that in a little bowl of water, these red little arrows will sink down. And then the pith, or like the white part, will just float up. So it's a really easy way to separate them. With these, Carrie may have to help me remember how many Caitlin said, how many arrows are in a pomegranate. Was it 600?
Yes. She had her
600.
children count last night.
So if you go this route, you'll have a lot. So when you think about the holidays and people coming, it's nice to have it on hand because you could certainly use it as a topping if you did like a yogurt parfait the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
If you're running short on time, they actually sell just the arrows at the grocery store. They're kind of pricey because they did the work for you, but they certainly still have them. So the other topping is going to be the avocado. So Karen, can you tell us a little bit about the avocado in terms of nutrition?
Well, avocados, of course, they're green, so they have some phytonutrients in them. And of course, for those of you that may not know, phytonutrients or phytochemicals may not necessarily be the vitamin in the food or the mineral or the fiber, but what gives it color. And so the green, definitely phytonutrient. And so what those do to our cells, they keep our healthy cells healthy, as well as possibly there are properties where they can surround cancer cells and maybe keep them from growing, slowing down, maybe keep some blood vessels from forming to feed the cells. So very healthy fat, of course, and avocados go great with a lot of different dishes.
This is the one thing I don't know if I would prep in advance. I cut mine right before, we started. When the air gets to them, it can kind of turn them a little bit of a darker color. So I would cut it right before you're fixing to serve it. But Susie had a great tip that if you have extra, like let's say you used only half of your avocado, keep the seed in the other half. And put saran wrap on it, keep it airtight. It will keep it fresher longer. And I have to say, I tried it and it worked. And it was such a good tip. So thank you, Susie. So we've got the avocado. That's another one of our toppings. And then we also have the pepitas, the pumpkin seeds. So one of the things we learned doing this is these pumpkin seeds here, they're pepitas. And so pepitas are distinct from pumpkin seeds in that they're from a unique variety of pumpkin that has holeless seeds. So this one saved me a little bit of time than roasting the seeds, but you could certainly roast your own seeds if you like. I will also note that the seeds and the sauce are big contributors to the calorie and the sodium content in our recipe. So if you're trying to reduce that, keep in mind the portion size. This recipe makes a generous amount of sauce. So you may not need to truly split all of that sauce between only 6 or 8 tacos. You might be able to, use a tablespoon or so. So as we think about the holidays, at least for me, I always think about people kind of stopping by or spending the night. And this is one of the reasons that I've so enjoyed this recipe is because it's meal prep friendly. You can do all of this ahead of time, except the avocado, certainly. And it's friendly to a large amount of ages, from kids to adults. And what you can do is you can kind of keep thinking about the different toppings that you may want to put on this taco bar. So I've also got some tomatoes, some red peppers, some green onions. Like I was saying, my daughter enjoys just sprinkling a little bit of cheese over it. I'll show you what it looks like, kind of how I plated it. Give me just a second.
Hey, Nicole.
Yes.
So if somebody doesn't like garbanzo beans, would any other bean work just as well, do you think?
I think a black bean would work too. And I've seen a lot of recipes for chili use something similar to this with the squash and the chickpeas, or a different kind of bean, but putting that in there with chili, the same spices and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is a something that people can make on their own, and they can kind of make it the way they would like. So for example, let's say you had a family member that perhaps was vegan or vegetarian. They may not necessarily have to use the yogurt sauce, but they may be able to eat other things. Whereas kids, they may do a little bit more of the sauce or the avocado or the cheese. And then I also did, the recipe calls for like soft tacos. I also did the crunchy. I found that was really nice when you're trying to kind of spread out the taco bar, if you will. Just letting people really dip up and make their tacos as they'd like. So I am gonna just take a second and check on our tacos, the butternut squash. I think they're about ready to come out, and then we can assemble a taco. Do we have any questions coming through, Karen?
Not right at the moment. I was going to ask, did you prepare your garbanzo beans? Were they, how did you prepare those ahead of time? Was there a specific, did you soak them in water or did you use canned?
You know what? I use canned, but you could certainly soak them in water. You could have fresh. Either way would work, absolutely. And then, if you're able to buy the lower sodium bean, that's another way you could reduce the sodium content if you needed to. I had just the kind of the regular garbanzo bean, but I rinsed it in addition to draining it. So I think we took away about 40% or so of that sodium just by rinsing it. Right. So I do want to just kind of point out, this is what it looks like when it comes out. So it's got a really beautiful, very fall color. And then from here, you can serve this warm if you would like. If you want to serve it cold, I've had it cold, and it's delicious cold as well. A lot of times I'll also make a pot of farro or quinoa, and then I'll take the leftovers and I'll make that into a taco bowl for leftovers the next day. I've also done kind of breakfast burritos where you put an egg over top of it, and it's also really good. It's kind of like a butternut squash hash. So really good. So we'll go ahead and just kind of start assembling our tacos. So again, you just have your shell here. If you needed to make this a little bit softer, what you could do is just put it, on a plate, lined with paper towels, a little bit wet, and just, pop it in the microwave. I'm just gonna go ahead and layer some of this on, trying to get some of that good squash and the good plant protein from the chickpeas in every bite. And then let's see. I think I might go by the recipe and just do some pepitas. Some pomegranates. And some avocados. I don't know if you guys can see that. They told me last time, they said, you got to make a bigger taco. So I'm trying to make it bigger.
You're doing great. Did you get the pomegranates on there?
Did I get the pomegranate? I think I might have left those out. Come back here.
The first time I made these, I served them to my husband, and I really thought he wasn't going to like them because he is a meat potato guy, Midwestern, Hoosier, and I gave him 2, just hoping that he would like them, and he asked for a 3rd one. So I was just surprised. It is so full of flavor and crunch. It is just an awesome dish. Awesome.
And the thing I like is that it's a nod to fall, but it doesn't repeat any of those kind of like tried and true traditional Thanksgiving meals, like your sweet potato casserole or, yams or that kind of thing. It's something a little bit different that's kind of fun, but still definitely nods to that fall seasonal ingredient. And I don't want to forget my sauce. So give me just a minute while I get my sauce here.
Yeah, this particular recipe is just full of just plant-based products, which are just wonderful for anyone. I mean, everything that's in it is anti-inflammatory, so would be beneficial for heart patients, any chronic diagnoses, and of course, cancer. Just a wealth of nutrition, just really nourishing our bodies the best that they can. Those nutrients. So yeah, looks
And it
wonderful,
doesn't have
Nicole.
to be. It is, and I cannot wait. I wish y'all could be here to share some of this with me. But this is a great, meal to have on hand, and it's a nice way to show that you can have some really good standby plant-based recipes that don't take all day to make. Especially when you've got little tips and tricks like that 3 minutes in the microwave for the butternut squash. You can also, if you're doing a prep day, I meant to say, you can go ahead and just put the butternut squash in a freezer bag and you can freeze it if you want to go, when it's in season and you're, prepping it.
So Nicole, we do have a
is-
question.
Okay, yeah, let's go for
We
it.
have a question on, of course, it looks amazing. Everybody is mentioning that. The question is, so how many calories would you predict would be in each taco?
Karen, I might need you to pull out the calculator on that one. I think we said
it's going to be for one taco, if you put all the toppings on, be about 350 calories per taco. But of course,
and I would just note too, this whole container right here. Okay, so that's a pretty good size container. They're dividing all of this sauce into 6 tacos. And on that taco right here, I did about 1 spoonful of this. So I think I would be inclined to kind of agree with Karen in that I think you could really reduce the calories by watching that portion size on especially the dressing and then the pumpkin seeds.
Yes. Good point.
So we just appreciate y'all being here. I hope that you guys have had fun and you've gotten inspired about making a fall take on Taco Tuesday. We appreciate it. Again, thank you to Caitlin. Thank you to all the Aon dietitians, the care management. We hope to see you back in January, and we hope that you'll join us next month for our wellness webinar. So if there aren't any other questions, I might take a bite of this taco and see you guys in January.
Great. You did a great job.
Great.
Thanks, Nicole. Number 1 under the belt. Yay.
Great job, Karen. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.